please raise your hand, and we will recognize you. We ask you to give your name, phone, and address to the secretary and the court. After you've all had an opportunity to speak, we then close the public portion. Then it's up to the board to either approve or deny your request. If we approve the request, generally speaking, it's good for 1 year. If for some reason, for financial reasons, the plans change and you're eliminated after 1 year, you'll have to come back and reapply for that grant. If you're denied at tonight's hearing, there really isn't any recourse in the township other than to take us into circuit court. Our first case under old business is case number 54618. Is the applicants here? People on Lakefront Street. You are here? Okay. They're requesting in response to an appeal by the Larry Landmaster of Oakland County Circuit Court case 219172947AA. They are requesting the following: an 18.92 foot variance from section 3901 footnote 4 to allow the proposed house to come within 44.08 feet of the southeast lakefront property line, or 63 foot is required. 2, a 22-foot variance from section 21042 to allow proposed roof haven gutter to come within 38 feet of the southeast front lake property line, where 60 foot is required. Number 3, a 5-foot variance from section 3-900 to allow the proposed house to come within 30 feet of the northwest lake rear property line, where 35 foot is required. An 8.25 foot variance from section 21042 to allow the proposed roof heave gutter to come within 23.75 foot feet of the northwest lake rear property line, where 32 foot is required. Number 5, a 2.75 foot variance in section 21042 to allow the proposed roof eave and gutter to come within 2.25 of the northeast side property line, where 5 foot minimum is required. Number 6, a 2.75 foot variance in section 21042 to allow proposed roof eave and gutter to come within 2.25 feet of the southwest side property line, where 5 foot is required. And last, a 1,404 square foot variance from section 3901 footnote 2B1B to allow the proposed house and its impervious surfaces to encompass a total area of 9,319 square feet, where all of you are required no more than 7,915 square feet, 50% of the available area. And representatives, more than one presenter. Yeah, have the table. Give us a reason why you feel you should be entitled to these variances, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Attorney Clarence Doss. I also represent the applicant. I'm the one handling the matter in the Oakland County Circuit Court on behalf of the Navy family. And so therefore I'm representing them here today to make a record. This is a unique situation. It's not your normal situation because you've already been here and made a decision, and then there was an appeal, and based on the judge's ruling in circuit court, she decided that it should come back here for a clarification of the record, basically. These variances were already approved twice by this body. It was approved in 2016, approved in 2019. In both of those years, my client submitted an application with supplemental information and plans. You reviewed all those plans. You had the same format you have here today. They spoke. You had public comment. I think the landmasters who were the subject of this appeal spoke at each of those different occasions. All of you heard that commentary and testimony, and then still ruled in favor of the variances, not once but twice, and we're hoping for a third time today. Based on the two previous decisions, my clients basically relied on it and started proceeding, and they demolished their home, went and spent upwards of $60,000 to $70,000 on plans to get it in accordance with the variances and the plans in place, and are now suffering a little bit because of the appeal, in the sense that they could have been building already, but the cost of construction now in the summertime is a lot higher, and now everything is delayed, and we're trying to get the process kind of back on track here. But we understand that this is the way it needs to happen, because that's what the judge ordered. And I've learned that when the judge orders something, you do it. They submitted some more information this time around from a surveyor, a company called Stonefield, and that document, which you should have, basically goes through each variant and explains why they're necessary and that they're essentially not inconsistent with the rest of the homes in the area. One of the complaints that's being raised by the neighbors here, by one of the neighbors, is that this is incongruous to the rest of the lots there. We have submitted letters from virtually all the neighbors. I think some of them are here. I think one named Gene Feldman is on his way here for the public commentary portion. But the report from the surveyor basically says that these variances are not out of the ordinary. They are actually consistent with the rest of the homes in the area. And in fact, we took the extra step, and Louis Dave Rosier is here. I hope I got close to that because he corrected me earlier.
Now,
You're right. And he'll be able to comment specifically on these, but we even went so far as to eliminate one of the variances to try to accommodate as much as we could. But the others we just couldn't because that's the whole point.
some of the things you've addressed from our initial meeting, which was the first meeting, we got it drawings controlling the water runoff now, which we appreciate and was approved by the township. Additionally, the impervious driveway has been changed, so now we're not 50% coverage on the lot. So those things would not be an issue because you've addressed them to our satisfaction, the township satisfaction. And so you are making progress. There's a couple things we may be asking the applicant, or the neighbor about when he gets to it. So that we want everybody to walk out happy.
I agree. And just to talk about the runoff issue for one moment, I know that, and I think it was in 2019, either 2016 or 2019, the township supervisor actually submitted a report, I believe, that indicated that there wouldn't be the runoff problem that the landowners are claiming.
That was a township supervisor?
I'm not the supervisor, I'm sorry, the township engineer.
Oh, okay.
And I keep
That's
saying
correct.
supervisor, but the engineers I'm referring to, submitted a report that basically said that there is no runoff issue, and that.
Well, that was our first meeting, they corrected it with that report. Yes. Okay. We have in our packet that was approved, this new plan,
What, with these stipulations?
with the stipulation.
Right, you have a memo that addresses the current submittal. There was an engineering plan that was submitted in January of 19, and a revised plan that was submitted after comments were given back to the applicant's design engineer. I don't ever remember writing anything that said before that the runoff has been completely addressed.
So I clarified that. Again, I wasn't here for the previous, but I was, thank you very much. I'm only looking at the record from the past two times, and so I had deduced that, but thank you for the clarification. So I'll let Mr. DeRosier answer most of the specific questions about the variances and how they don't necessarily have the same problem that the landlords are claiming. We've submitted several letters from neighbors. They're here.
Yeah, those.
And I think many from here. We've made attempts to resolve. I've contacted the attorney that's representing the landmasters several times and have not heard back from him. We went proactively, like I said, eliminated some of these issues. But I think for my purposes, what I would ask is the documents that we submitted be made part of the record because we don't want to have the same issue this time around. So the application, the supplemental information, the letters from the neighbors, and then this report from Stonefield that goes through each variance and indicates why they are not a problem, basically. I would ask to be admitted as part of the record and that you rely on those documents in making your decision. That will help the judge, I think, understand why you made the previous decision.
Another issue that we brought up, and the Roger mentioned this as an architectural feature, I think concern of the board and the township was the 5-foot overhangs, and if you reduce them to 2.25-foot overhangs, that wouldn't be an issue. I don't know, I know that it might hurt your feelings, but that's one of the things that we were thinking might be appropriate to deal with the runoff from the roof. If we reduce the size of the overhangs to 2.25 rather than the 5-foot you shown on your plans. I think your answer was, well, it's an architectural thing. they'd like to design it.
Just on the side setback?
side,
Just the side setback.
Well, I don't think they're actually 5 feet, but anyhow, I'm Lou DeRosia, the architect of the project. We've all met before. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Can you hear me? I'm going to keep it, try to keep it as simple as I can this time because we've got added new information from the Stonefield Engineer company that did a lot of research on the site, which I will share with you. And if you look at their exhibits, if you have them, if you go to V1, we're going to kind of bypass my past exhibits and go to their exhibits, V1, because I think they're very, very helpful. So V1 is all about that's the first variance situation. It's all about the shoreline setback. And so the average that was calculated was 44.08 feet setback has been shown in the yellow across there. If you look at the yellow line, it shows it setback from the water. And one thing I'd like to point out with all due respect, the neighbor to the east, if you look there at 41 feet on the far right-hand side of your paper, which isn't actually, which violates the actual setback that's calculated. If they were to have to calculate, their house sits into the setback slightly. Overall, though, the request for the 44.8 feet is consistent with the surrounding buildings. They are all between the 40 and 50 range. So if you look at your V1, you'll see, if you look down the shore, you can see all those houses to the west in particular are very, very close to being the exact same setback. So it's very consistent with the neighborhood. The other thing, our site is unique, and this is sort of a practical difficulty here, that the shoreline cuts in from the north shoreline is cut in approximately 15 to 20 feet, obviously from the waves through the years, and makes the property, their particular piece of property, that you can see from the drawing there, from the aerial photograph, very, very realistic. You can see where it cuts in and pushes against us a little bit. So that's basically our concern, our answer to the variance for the 40. We don't think that that's out of line variance to be asking for since it's so consistent with this neighbor. So I'm going to go right away to V2, which is another exhibit that they have developed. V2, this is regarding the proposed 38-foot roof overhang that's been shown in yellow. So we took our 38 feet and made a yellow line across there, trying to show the relationship with the other home. And as you can see, it actually lines up with, they pretty much line up even with the eastern house, but mostly to the west. All of those roof overhangs are all lining up about equal with that setback. So we feel that that's certainly not going to be a concern. The sightlines have been shown from the existing buildings. It's that we don't see that we're blocking anybody's view. There's no, you can see how we've done all these 150 degrees views from neighbor to neighbor. No one will have their view interrupted any different than the views they've had all these past years. So the roof overhang will not impede any neighbor's sightline. The neighbor to the east also has pine trees there, whether they stay or not, to blocking their view already, but that's we're probably used to that. The proposed building line is also showing that our building is in line with all the existing houses up and down the shoreline, just as I said, follow the yellow line, you can see that. So that's our opinion about that particular situation. So there's another exhibit V3, which is the lakefront street setback. And we have shown a line there proposing showing the 30-foot setback along the lakefront that's been again shown in yellow. And you can see that many of the surrounding houses have setbacks that are significantly less than our proposed 30 feet. You can see that right by looking at it. So it's amazing that everybody is sort of in that same situation right there. Our site is on the dead-end street where only 4 houses have a use of the road, 2 of which are closer to the road than our proposed building. And there's somewhat of a practical difficulty here too, because the road has a turn in it, and into our property. And since garages are all rectangular, the garage is the only part that's pushing a little bit forward into that setback, but it is consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. So going on to another subject, D4 is another exhibit that we have here, which is, has to do with the lakefront overhang setback. And frankly, all of the comments I just made about for the V3 or for the variance for the building setback are the same with the overhangs. Many of the overhangs line up, and with the rest of the house, we think that those overhangs are consistent with the neighborhood. So there's not a lot to say about that, because it's so similar to the one before. So going to B5 and 6, this is regarding the side yard setbacks, which was an interesting subject we were just talking about. And our building, first of all, is more than 5 feet from the side yard, which is the side yard requirement. Our building is 6 feet from the side yard because we wanted to have some kind of as much overhang as we could possibly get. So we've shown those in red. And if you look further down, you can see our property there. It's right under the word street, under Lakefront Street. We've shown our setbacks. The neighbors, we have other neighbors further down that only have 3 feet and a foot and a half their own roof overhangs from the side of the road. And even the people on the east are 5 feet. Their own home is 5 feet. Their overhangs and their side yards is 5 feet. As far as the roof overhang, I mean, we're willing to work with you with that. If it's, I think we were asking, what was the amount, the distance we were asking for?
2.75.
Yeah, I'm sorry?
2.75.
Right, 2.75. We could probably be all right with reducing that. I like the idea that it keeps the water away from the house, and that the water is coming down into our French drains that we designed with the Alpine engineers. So a little of that overhang actually helps that consistently to get the water dripping off the roof away from the building.
Would 2 1/4 feet be adequate?
It's the like, pardon me?
2 1/4 if we granted that.
Yeah, I think we could work with that. Yes, I do. So the most important thing, the most exciting and good news of the day, I felt, was variance number 7, because it's, we realized, and we did some research and they've come up with some marvelous things now, where we have permeable, you can have a driveway that's totally permeable, that's the earth, you touched on that before, Mr. Chairman. And and we have here the actual company Unilock, which shows all the details and how they have the permeability and so forth. I want to have you share with that. You're probably already familiar.
You wouldn't need a variance for 7.
That is
You're
right.
correct.
So the good news is 7 wouldn't exist. As a matter of fact, we did the calculations, and instead of 59, we'd be 46%. So we'd be 4% under the 50 allowed. So we're excited about eliminating that one, because front coverage is probably an important issue. So there are many other things we could talk about, I'm sure, but I hope I was concise and covered.
Thank you. Is there anybody else got any comments on this request? No, somebody's got it here. Yeah, your name, yes, sir.
You want the proponents to go first, or you want?
Whichever you want to. We don't.
It's your meeting, wherever you want, sir.
All right. Come on up.
Mr.
You're
Chairman,
gonna-
can I cheat on the rules?
Yes, absolutely.
Carrie Dover, Township Attorney. Before Mr. Ryan makes his presentation, if I heard Mr. DeRozier,
That's right, perfect.
if I heard him correctly, he said that they could look with 2.25 feet overhangs on the sides.
That's correct. And that would eliminate 5, 6, and 7.
If that is in fact the applicant's position, are they withdrawing their request for variances 5 and 6?
And even 7 because of the driveway they're proposing. None of those would be required. 5, 6, and
You
7.
only dealing 1 through 4, but Mr. DeRozier is the architect, but he's not the applicant's legal representative.
Okay.
Just before Mr. Ryan
Good
makes his
point.
presentation, if he's wanting to talk about 5 and 6.
We're going to
they're not
withdraw
okay.
5, 6, and 7?
It sounds like it. I just
And for
confirmed-
me, it makes sense.
Yeah, I just confirmed with my client, and they're, if it's Rosie's opinion, they're gonna go with that. They're
Okay. Thank you.
I know Mr. Tom Ryan wants to speak. I know there are some neighbors that need to leave apparently.
Oh,
No, of course not.
Okay. Somebody's got a time schedule that they have? Okay, whoever wants to speak, just raise, and then give your name and address. You don't have to know, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
Whatever you feel.
Yeah, James Feldman, I live at 3675 Lakefront, directly next door. I've been next door neighbors to them since I've owned the home over 20 years, and I think it's a fantastic project. Lou's work is amazing. I think it only adds value to all the adjoining property owners. I'm surprised that there's this much uproar over somebody spending millions of dollars on a home. I don't see anything about it that is offensive in any way, so I think it's great what we're doing.
Thank you. Are you speaking on behalf of the row or the individual going to speak? You're all welcome to if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd like
Yes,
to.
okay, fine. Your name and address,
My name
please.
is Ted Long, 1444 Farm Ridge, and I see nothing wrong, in my opinion, of what's going on. I feel that the township has agreed to these folks, and that they deserve to have a home. I'm sorry for these folks that don't want them there. But we agree with their wonderful neighbors all.
I don't think they're objecting to them building the home. There was some concerns about drainage, which is probably one of the biggest issues. And hopefully, Rotary has addressed that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Julian Bellini. I'm at 3895 Lakefront Street, and I live down the street from Amy's, and I'm in full support of the project. Lou actually did some work for us too, so we're glad that he's working on it.
Thank you for coming. Any other comments? Okay, then, yes, your name and address, please, sir.
Steve Coyote, 3707 Lakefront. I live to the west, immediately to Mr. Feldman. One house just next door. I'm not well aware of all the details here. It sounds like mainly a drainage type issue, water drainage issue, but I would echo what the words that Mr. Feldman said.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, basically, everything has been appropriate up to this point, but there's some questions by the neighbor that wanted the architect to address. Now, we're going to hear from the other side to see if they feel that we've addressed them or if there's still some concerns. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So good afternoon. Good to see you folks. We're here before today on a remand of Old County Circuit Court relative to variance requested by the Navy family at 3605 Lakefront Street in Waterford Township. I represent Mr. Larry Landmeiser, who's the adjacent property owner at 3605 Lakefront Street. So first of all, the purpose for being here is to have the Waterford Township Zoning Board review the requested variances by the Navies and determine whether or not requests for variances involve a violation of zoning ordinance or meet the standard under the township ordinance and state law as to whether these ordinances be granted. As stated in my memorandums I sent to the zoning board on June 11th, I'm sure you've all read it. And to clear up the air here for the neighborhood, you know, my clients do not object to the Navies building a fabulous home on their property. They're certainly entitled to do that, and there's no question that that's going to benefit everybody in the neighborhood. However, because there are zoning variances being requested, and respectfully, these variances impact only my client's property, because water flows downhill. The Navy property is above our property by 2 or 3 feet. That's documented on the plans. So that water is going to go somewhere if it doesn't stay on their property, right? And it's supposed to stay on their property. So we're really talking, as you said, Mr. Chairman, about water. I don't mean water in Cass Lake. I mean water that's hopefully going to get to Cass Lake in some fashion. So, and to be clear, and I don't want to interrupt the folks, but you know, we're not challenging variance 1 or 2. We're not challenging their front yard variance to the lake. We're not challenging the overhead variance on their roof overhang toward the lake. And as I understand it now, they've withdrawn variance request number 7, which is the lot coverage areas. So basically, we're just talking to keep everybody focused on variances 3, 4, and 5. Now variance 6 is a side setback variance also, but that involves the north side or the west side, the north side, which is Mr. Feldman's property. And if he's okay, we're not talking about his property.
They're withdrawing the request 5 and 6.
Well, but I need to talk to you about that,
Okay.
because I'm not that sharp, I don't understand what that means. Because respectfully, the zoning ordinance requires that you only have 5 feet setbacks in the township, which is, you're right, okay? So the building's gotta be 5 feet from the lot line. Under the setback, the eve setback, it can be within, that under the ordinance has to be within 5 feet also, to be within the zoning ordinance. So if they wanna keep the eve, respectfully, they gotta move the building 5 feet back if they wanna keep that eve. So when you say they're withdrawing your request, they still wanna, as I understand it, they still wanna have an incursion into the side yard setback of some distance. And respectfully, and we have an engineer here, our own engineer, who, you know, there's no way that you need to have that 5 feet of clear way between the eve or the house to build a drainage system that's going to work, and we're suggesting a swale in that 5 feet to keep the water. It's low maintenance. It keeps the water on their property, and it flows from the.
Are you suggesting a swale rather than the drainage that they had proposed?
Yeah, we don't think respectfully that the drain system is going to work because it needs to be maintained. We don't believe it's properly sized, and with those, if we don't have more room between the eve, if they're going to have it, and the side yard, that water is going to cascade down that roof because of the house is significantly higher than it was, and that's going to shoot right into our property, respectfully. And that's what we don't want to have happen. The house is beautiful, but they need to accommodate our side, which is the east side. So as to variance 3, we don't think that they need the variance for the street side. For the reason that, although we appreciate that they're now going to use pervious driveway construction to hold some of that water back there. See, the water, at some point, the water at the yard, at the backyard, I'll call it, the street side, goes to the street. And when it goes to the street, which is a private road, not under the township jurisdiction, it goes to the street, and because our property is lower than their property, that water turns right around and ends up, guess where? On our property. As we all know, we've had a record amount of rain, so it's not getting any better. So we need to have them use that room respectfully, not for an eve variance or whatever. We need to have them pull back from the street so they can provide some kind of other French drains or not swale, but or a catch basin or some kind of drainage system to stop that water going to the road as much as they can. So that's why we don't think they need that 5-foot variance. Keep it where it should be, and have them use that land to impound that water on their property. As to variance 4, the street side roof overhang, again, that's going to impact what happens below, and we don't think that they really need that either. Maybe if they pull the house back and they don't get the 5 foot, because the roof eave won't be on the ground, there'll still be room there to catch that water. But really, we need that 30 feet. We need that 5-foot variance relative to number 3. We don't think that's necessary.
35-foot setback rather than the 30.
Correct. Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Now let's talk about number 5, which is really, well, the rear yard is important because, as I said, because of the grade issue and the fact that that water will just go right around the corner and come on our property. But we really need you to really drill down on our side, the variance number 5. Variance number 6, that's fine. If the Feldman property is okay, that's fine with them. It just impacts our property for the reasons stated. Because of the topography, because this house is much higher now, and because that water is going to come down that roof, and it's going to fly off that roof, and if it's only got 2 or 3 feet to land, you know, that's not going to work because the drain's not going to work. The best, the safest, the most economical, and the most efficient and less maintenance solution is respectfully a swale in that 5 feet distance between our lot line and their lot line that gives them room to put their retaining wall inboard of the eave if they want to keep the eave. It's a simple maneuver to push the house back for whatever that distance is of the eave, maintain that 5 feet in the middle and push the eave back so the eave is in compliance with the ordinance being 5 feet away from the property line. That leaves that whole area as a swale, which that swale can run all the way down the west side of their, east side of our property, all the way down to the lake. It's simple, it's cost effective, and there's low maintenance. Otherwise, we're going to end up with that rainwater and that storm water also from the roof on that side.
First of all, it seems like a swale would be a lot cheaper than what they proposed. However, you're saying you don't feel that what they propose is going to work.
Well, I'm going to have the engineers.
We would also have to have some information that says it won't work.
Well, first of all, I did submit to you our engineer's report on June 11th, and he's here. I'm just a lawyer, so don't. I'm just saying that it's just a swale. You need more room between where that water flies off and what they're proposing now. And we have an engineer to address those issues who's way more competent about that than I am. But I just want to kind of outline it and why we believe, and to the neighbors. I mean, the neighborhood should know too. We're not just here making this stuff up. We think we've already got a lot of water, even off of that property now, when there's no structure on it.
The road provides water for your property. It all heads that way.
I'm sorry?
The road that's there that you're utilizing
No,
runs towards your property.
No, but I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, forget the road a minute, because there's two drainage patterns here. One goes to the road, and one's supposed to go to the lake. But we're still getting, where it's supposed to go to the lake, we're getting water from that site now, even though there's no home on it.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a water issue, and
We're always concerned about it.
right, I know you are, and that's why we're trying to offer solutions.
He knows that they've noted again.
Variance
5, 6, and
number
7.
5, 6, and 7, they've agreed to remove.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
That means
They have to
they're not
keep
gonna
it
grant it.
within 5 feet, right? So,
You mean the eave has to be within 5 feet of the
That's
lot
right.
line?
that,
The eave does.
That was 2.25.
2.25.
2.25.
That's 2.25.
Well,
The house has.
That's just about the waterfall.
no, the ordinance says, and Mr. Goldberg's here, that the eave has to be 5 feet. That was the variance request. The house is compliant, but the variance request was to move that eave within 2.25 feet of the lot line. And that means that it's got to be pushed back. It's got to be pushed away from the lot line to withdraw that variance. If they're doing that, that's great, but I don't know if that's what they're saying or not.
Item number 5 says they're asking for a variance of 2.57 variance to allow 275.
Right.
To propose eave gutter to come within 2.25 at northwest property line for 5 foot minimum is required. You're not going to do that. So they are complying with the 5 foot.
Well,
No, I thought we agreed we would reduce it from
Reduce it.
2.75 to 2.25.
Correct.
Right.
So there,
Still need
So
that
it's still out in the halfway.
It is what I do.
Yes.
if we don't grant you a 2.75 foot variance, you'll be in compliance. Because you only need 2.25, is that correct? Am I off on that?
no, sir.
so he's saying right now they're 6 feet from the property line, which would be the 2.75. Yeah, aren't you 6 feet
Yes,
now?
yes, yes.
So then how much overhang would you be allowed if we eliminated that 1 foot
We all
overhang?
have our different opinions about how the water drips off the roof and where it lands.
Right.
It's how it's taken down the lake. With all due respect, we have here, we're gonna have, this is a face-off with 2 engineers. We have a registered civil engineer of ours with his drawing of how he conceived it, and I'm actually thinking that maybe we could even make everybody happy by having the swale and the French drain. It's not like, that way it's like a,
Even better.
really everyone's like, I have these at my own home on Lake Michigan. The water, it's like taking your gutter system off the roof and putting the gutter system in the earth. That's what you're doing. And we're trying to send all the water as much as we can, with all due respect to the neighbors out there, into the lake, of course. That's much from the front that we can possibly get to the lake. So it doesn't flood that front yard, because I'm under the impression that some of the water goes down the street and ends up in the neighbor's yard. But having said that, so it's two different engineers' opinion. Now, your engineers, the city engineers, have already approved our concept here. We're more than welcome to try to approve it whichever way the engineers all agree. It's sort of an engineer face-off, as I said. As far as the overhang, I mean, we're a foot back, as Mr. Moore had said, and I would like to have at least another foot and a half. So we'd have 2.5, or I was going to do 2.25. So that would give us at least some overhang. That way that the water falls right down into about 3 feet from the property, from the edge of the property. That's where we'll put the French drain, and maybe even make a swale there also. That's the goal.
I just have a quick point that we all want to keep in mind. Now that that is a driveway,
Yes.
that's water is gonna pass right through that. And also, it's no longer just gonna sheet drain across the front into the street. It will not do that. There are trench drains located at both ends of that driveway, along that driveway, even as a safety factor on top of it being a dry-laid driveway. So it's really like it will absorb most of the water that's gonna come on site in the front.
That's a great observation. You're an engineer.
Landscape architect.
So,
Except we don't know the runoff, and we don't know the amount of water, respectfully.
What, but you
The
can calculate
calculation.
it, you can calculate
Right.
it.
Well,
right?
somebody should have, it's not before you, and somebody should have.
No, somebody did do that.
Alpine engineer.
Well, okay.
Civil engineer.
And just, and respectfully to that, it was interesting that on note 7, relative to Alpine Engineering and their plan, which we don't agree with, as you know, but it says, note 7 on plot plan, quote, builder will be responsible for resolving any drainage problems on adjacent property that are the result of builder activity. Now if that isn't waffling on your own drainage plan, I don't know what is.
I think it means during construction.
Well, but we don't think the plan's gonna work. I'll let the engineer speak to that. But let's try to get down to what we're talking about withdrawing this variance request 5, and where the line's gonna be and what's gonna be placed there, so we understand what we're talking about.
Well, they recommended the swale and the engineered drawing, which you wanted as well, and he wasn't.
If they'll do both, that's great, but we gotta nail this down.
And you said that would be acceptable?
Well, we have to make sure that we can do the swale. If there's an engineer that's here today who I don't know, if he has a solution on doing the swale, that's fine. The swale is just an earthen gutter,
Right.
like another, it's not even a big one.
Are there
Which
no
is better to
gutters
put it
on
in
the
a
home?
pipe.
I'm sorry?
Are there no gutters on the home?
So that's what we need. We need room for the swale. That's why it's critical as to where the house is gonna sit and the overhang and how much land we're
Somebody
gonna.
address your engineer then, what the architect recommended swale and the drainage they proposed? Does he think that would work?
In that
I can let you
engineer's
speak.
recommendation, you recommended that it would be put in a drainage pipe. That was your recommendation, part of your recommendation.
I'll let him speak.
Yes, that's what you said. If there were downspouts and if things were put into a pipe, I believe that's what you said.
No, I recommend soil.
Well,
Period.
That would be my recommendation for the side yard.
Can I just, this morning my name is Lauren Crandall with Giffords Western Engineers. This morning after a conversation with Tom, I just kind of drew up a cross-section of the way I interpret the plot plan and architectural. I'd like to share that.
I just want to make one, I'm a lawyer, so I speak objections. We were told that anything that would be considered by this committee would have to be turned in at a certain point prior to today. And so we all got things together and submitted them, and so now we're presenting with new information that we haven't seen. And I thought the committee can't consider, so I guess I'm just raising an objection for the record, that it should have been submitted, and it's not before you.
Are you suggesting we table till the next meeting or resolve?
Well, no, I would say that you don't consider it because the rule was that you have to
Okay, no
submit it by
consideration.
11 a.m.
he's making a valid point
What's
with
he
the
got?
swale. Wouldn't it be cheaper for you to put a swale in than the system you propose?
Attorney Dover,
I can't answer that, I'd have to ask an engineer into that.
Okay, I'm just saying, it sounded like a cheaper.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, well, I don't know rules of Robert.
Okay. Last things first. I advise both attorneys that the deadline to turn things in, if they wanted them in the packets that were delivered to you in advance of the meeting, was last week. I never indicated that things could be presented to me. Number two, as far as the eaves and the gutters, the ordinance requires those to be 5 feet away. Okay, so if they withdraw that, the eaves and gutters have to be 5 feet away from the lot. And I don't know if Mr. Rozier said they're all in the house is 6 feet, so that would allow a 1 foot overhang. But I also think I have heard that both Landmesser and Navy have their engineers here. Lo and behold, Ms. Marinsky is here. And I suspect you have other cases on your agenda. I'm curious if those representatives would be willing to have you recess this case, allow those engineers to talk to see if they could come to an agreement on that lot line for handling the drainage to the satisfaction of Landmesser, that Navy can agree is doable, and identify an appropriate overhang setback that would be needed on that side.
The board would appreciate that. I think so.
I don't know if they're willing, I don't see any harm, no one's gonna be prejudiced by that. And, everybody's here.
Is that all right with you, attorneys? Do we recess temporarily for you to meet?
I mean, otherwise, you guys can be here all night, all done, and move along with the court. And I'm fine with that too.
You didn't hear me explain that they're suggesting that we, engineers talk, and see if you can, come up with something.
Compromise.
Right now.
Right now, right.
The other
These
engineers.
other cases, and then
And we'll move ahead with the rest of the agenda when you come back.
But Alpine's not here.
Oh, I thought you said they were, I'm sorry.
No, our engineer Alpine's not here.
So that's all right, we can.
Well, he,
You still
I mean,
can
that's
have
why
one.
the engineer does
I
it.
don't think it's rocket science.
No.
No, it isn't.
So we can talk about it,
Yes,
yeah.
if you just step out, so that you can do that, and then we'll continue with the agenda, and hopefully you come back shaking hands.
And there's no issue with the attorneys participating in that discussion.
Okay.
And not me, but.
No.
Thank you.
Most people don't think that's.
Take a recess for that.
we need a motion to recess.
We need a motion to recess.
Move it. Or,
Should we put a time limit on that?
No.
No time limit. All in favor of granting a recess for case number? Anything by saying that?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And we're gonna move on then. The next case is case number PZBA 19-006. The applicant's, John Gardner, Roberta Lane, requesting a 4-foot variance. Mr. Gardner, available?
We need a motion to untable that case, please. Pardon? We need a motion to untable that case. I'll make a motion to
Moved on table. All in favor of the motion to untable, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, you were here last time, and this is.
This is what I thought.
You're fine, okay.
A lot more first than you.
Well, after tonight, I don't know if I know. In the past, to me, it was a simple request. We've come up with some new rules that we have to abide by because attorneys challenging what our board does. Your son or you want to have a 3-car garage. He already has a 2-car garage. His neighbors next door, everybody said they're happy. They have no objection. Now you have to give us a reason why it isn't self-created. Because one of our objections is it's a self-created, and you don't need a 3-car.
I'd like to expand on that.
Yeah, so you have a chance right now.
Sure. So, just to reiterate, I'm requesting the variance, and unfortunately I'm not able to comply with the ordinances, because of the taper of the property line, and, the proposed garage would breach the setback on the, south side.
Unfortunately, moving the garage towards the rear is not possible due to an existing electrical main and a chimney. And I have a picture of those that I can use later if necessary. Unfortunately, I can't build the garage in the rear of the property. Bylaws right away would prevent that. However, if I did get the variance, then not only could I build a proposed garage and increase the value of my home and surrounding homes, but also bring the size and quality of the garage to be more in line with the size and quality of the living area of the home. There are in fact other homes in the neighborhood that are the same size as my home that do have a 3-car garage, and expanding my home to have a 3-car garage, kind of bring it in line with existing other homes that have the same layout.
In your reply to the township, you said it wasn't self-created because the placement of the existing house and the utilities makes it impossible for you to have this garage. In the future, when it was first built, it wouldn't have been a problem.
Right, so the problem here being that the placement of the house doesn't allow the 3rd car, the garage addition to be built within the constraints. There's also approval, as you saw, from all of the neighbors, more importantly, the neighbor that will be approaching. Also, I went through and verified that the structure distance between the new proposed garage and that neighbor is still 23 feet, which would allow emergency vehicles to get to the back of the house if necessary.
Is there anybody in your eyes got any comments in this case? Hearing that, we're going to close the public portion. We had a divided board. We didn't have the 7 members, and we need to have 4 to 9. I think you've addressed the concern because it is self-created because of the location of the house that you purchased and the utilities. And on that basis, I'm still in favor of that. As I was last time. So it's up to the board to either make a motion to approve or deny your request. I think he's addressed it in his application.
I'd like to make a motion. I motion to approve case number PZBA 19-006. Due to A, the applicant has satisfactorily demonstrated requiring strict compliance with restrictions governing the area setback and frontage due to taper of the property line. B, the applicant has garnered approval from the homeowners association as well as surrounding neighbors. C, the applicant has satisfactorily demonstrated that lesser variance than requested will not give substantial relief due to lot design and electrical mains. D, the applicant has satisfactorily demonstrated that the need for the variance is due to the circumstances of his property is unique with a tapered front corner. E, the applicant has satisfactorily demonstrated that the problem and resulting need for the variances has not been self-created due to placement of the original home on the lot. And F, the applicant has satisfactorily demonstrated that the spirit of the zoning ordinance will be observed. He still has substantial distance between proposed structures and the existing neighbor's structure.
Thank you. There's support for the motion?
I support.
Is there other discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion to grant a variance on this case, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried 5-2. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next case is under new business. Mike Epley, is he available? Okay. This applicant is requesting a 14.5 variance to section 3900 to allow the existing detached accessory building to be attached and remain 20.5 feet from the rear property line with 35 feet squared. Secondly, a 12.5 variance to section 2104 to allow the existing roof leak and gutter to remain within 19.5 feet of the rear property line with 32 foot minimum squared. The applicant has a house with a detached garage and he wants to fill in the space so that it is now attached. You walk out of his house into the garage. So the existing conditions for a detached garage are different than an attached garage. And he's not going any closer to the property line than what he's currently observing or using, but he's now being able to fill in a square, 2 squares actually, so that he has continuity from his house into his garage. And the reason he's here is because he complies when it was not attached. That garage is not going anywhere. They're only going to attach it out of the house, and the rules are different. He's asking that for us to grant a variance so you can close that area. Is there anything else you want to say?
Well, you said almost everything that I was going to say.
Right.
Specifically with regards to line of sight and existing setbacks, we're not going proposing anything closer to the rear setback as well as that side setback. The house that was originally built for a cottage, it's now, under use of family use, so it's very, very small. I want to say almost like a Tetris shape of the existing house is very uniform in terms of just
Unusual.
how it's laid out. Yep. The garage conveniently sits where it sits, so as to provide a real easy attachment and provide mudroom, drop down, really how most homes assume to be structured nowadays. I looked at one of the questions here of a lesser variance, whether that would be attainable. A lesser variance almost wouldn't even be possible if we went any closer to the garage without connecting. It's still not really usable the way that we want to use it. So I'm merely a contractor on the job. Mr. Alexander here owns the property. We wanted to touch base a little bit on last questions that were.
David, I just wanted to give you some insight as to the situation for our family. We've lived there in the neighborhood for 41 years. My wife and I moved in 78 when our child was just newly born. Interestingly enough, he's the one we're talking about living in this house.
He grew up.
He did. He totally grew up, and he has his own family, and we love it. We're spoiled by the fact that our grandchildren and our child are across the street.
Nice transition.
It's a beautiful transition.
One of our concerns, Mr. Board brought up to me, which makes perfect sense, there's different rules for an unattached garage.
Yes.
And when it's attached to the garage, to the house, there has to be 42-inch deep footings. I'm not sure if it has those, but you'll have to prove to the township that you do.
Yeah.
And if you don't, they're going to require you to provide them.
We understand that.
Because that's another rule change.
Yeah.
I disagree with that too. I actually spoke with the building inspector directly about that. In lieu of the beginning stages of all this, I shoveled the ground literally just to see if I granted that one of the various municipalities. It's not 42 inches, and we are
Prepared.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared when you do that, when you excavate it, you don't, the integrity of the building doesn't change. You may have to do it in sections.
Yep. Mike is a family business as well, and he's done work in our family also in the past for my daughter's home and our home as well recently, so we have great confidence in him. But that's just it. We've been actually literally, the house is the shape that it is, and I don't want to talk ill of it because it was owned by my father-in-law prior to this, but when he passed away, it became ours. And so that's why, and it's been the residence of family members pretty much its entire life, but it's always been one or two people. And now my son with his family, his children.
Well, Mike's going to have to deal with the building department because they're going to request proof. And you may have to excavate it to show.
Oh, yeah.
You'll have to comply.
Yeah.
It's comply to an
So Mike is
attached
extremely
garage.
fastidious.
Okay.
We'll provide those in the drawings because we're already aware that the footings of the garage don't comply. So we will already have factored into the building request.
Does anybody have any comments on this request of variance? Hearing none, I'll close the public portion. Board, do you have any questions of that?
One quick question, you said you do own the properties both to the left and to the right of you there, the two
We do.
vacant spots there?
Yeah, the 2 lots to the side and the 3 lots to the other side were also part of my father-in-law's property. So we're directly across the street. So we're right. I mean, talk about we want to be careful in the neighborhood. It's our neighborhood. We don't want to have to. We don't want to. Yeah, I mean, it's where we've lived for 41 years. So.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to approve or deny the request?
I'll make a motion. I motion to approve case number PZDA 19-008. For A, the applicant has satisfactorily demonstrated requiring strict compliance with restrictions due to the non-conforming design. B, the applicant has satisfactorily demonstrated that variances will do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners. He is not encroaching any closer to the property line. C, the applicant has satisfactorily demonstrated that lesser variances than requested will not give substantial relief, and it will also minimize impact on adjacent neighbors. D, the applicant has satisfactorily demonstrated that the need for variances is due to unique circumstances. It is unique to this existing property. E, the applicant has satisfactorily demonstrated that the problem and resulting need for the variances has not been self-created. He's adding room for comfortable use without approaching any new property lines. And the application has satisfactorily demonstrated that the spirit of the zoning ordinance will be observed and will give full usefulness of the residents for the future.
I'll support.
Is there any further discussion?
I would like to add the condition that he gets the footings approved by the building department.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried, you're elected to vote.
Thanks.
This is all in the history.
Thank you again.
Next case is PZBA 19-009, requesting a 4-foot variance from section 3-900 to allow proposed attached garage to come within 6 feet of the south side property line with 10-foot minimum required. Number 2, a 3.0-foot variance from 1042 to allow the proposed roof even gutter to come within 4 feet of the south side property line required 7 foot. Property is 3708 Embarcadero, single family residential, Larry Getzmeyer. Probably the only one on that street that doesn't have this garage.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It's-
There's only 2 houses.
And doesn't it go back like 60 years when that subdivision was developed? What they did, when building your subdivision, everybody had this branch back home, and hardly any of them had garages at that time. And then as we progress, you're adding these garages, and almost everybody in the subdivision, exception of a few lots like yours, has been granted a variance to build exactly what you're asking. You're not getting anything more than what everybody in the whole street has, I think.
Yeah, I guess, I never had a garage, so I was still my whole life. So
Yeah, they got to be brought up to date.
I just wanted to have it so 24, 24 foot at least, right beside the garage. I'll have some room to pull over, and I have a motorcycle, and so get in and out of those things.
Has anybody always got any comments on this request? He lives in a very nice subdivision here in Waterford Township, but for whatever reason, didn't have a garage until now, and actually, it's not self-created, it's the way the subdivision was created. But, do you have any questions or a motion for the applicant?
I have a question. How long have you lived at this property?
I was there since 2013.
Okay, and so what have you been using for a garage?
I don't have no medical.
So what, for the things that you want to store there, where are they now?
Well, that was at my dad's house, the boat was, and I didn't have my boat back then. Or the bikes,
You should like to have a car and a motorcycle or something.
Yeah, a motorcycle, I got it stored in it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's, you didn't need the variance, you could build a 24-foot by a 20-foot garage?
If I didn't need
20 foot
Yeah.
wide.
Yes. You would not need a variance to build a 24-foot by a 20-foot garage. You could, is what I'm trying to say, you wouldn't,
You're asking to be 4 foot closer, it requires 10 foot. You want to be 6 feet off the property line, but you want to build a garage 24 feet wide. When she's mentioning if you built one 20 foot wide, you wouldn't need a variance. Because you'd be 10 feet off the property line. 20 foot is very modest.
so you can fit all your vehicles in the garage? Right.
I think my concern would be if he was unique to that subdivision. Almost everybody is like 5 or 6 feet off that property line instead of 10.
Plus today with those big garbage cans, you can't have them, right? They don't even fit in the car.
Has any more questions for the applicant? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to either approve or deny. But Karen did make a good point, you could build a smaller garage and make it work.
Yeah, I didn't have those.
I mean, a large portion of Waterford has lakefront, and they have, I mean, I pay for storage for my boat.
I make a motion to approve. Do you want to second that?
Second.
Well, we don't want a second until you give the whole motion.
Oh, I have to do it all now?
Yes,
Okay, sorry. All right, so a motion to approve, case number PZBA 19009, based on one, that, the strict compliance of the ordinance provides being, is unnecessary burdensome, meaning that the house was built without a garage, and at this time, most homes do have a garage, and this will allow you to put a garage in the garage. Okay, the variance will do substantial justice to the applicant and the other property owners. It would blend in with the existing neighborhood, everybody has garages. The lesser variance then requested would not give substantial relief to the applicant or be consistent with, to justify to other property owners. It is a little bit bigger, but today cars are bigger, garbage cans are bigger, you really need that extra space. And the variance is needed due to unique circumstances of the property because it was not built with a garage, that would be the unique circumstance. The problem and resulting need for the variance was not self-created, you didn't build the house. And the variance observes the spirit of the zoning ordinance and will not adversely affect the public safety and welfare and will do substantial justice.
Thank you, we need a second for that.
I second.
Is there any other questions from the board? If not, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Tracy, I was opposed to that.
I was going to say Stacy, I was opposed also.
Oh, five to 2. Okay, our next case, PZBA 19-010, requested variance from section 6-104J to extend the time frame validity of the variance to be granted on May 17, 2016. The time frame for acting to implement the plan granted shall be calendar year of the date of the decision. Property is the 4795 Dixie Highway, general business, and the applicant API. Is your name, sir?
Alan Hall with API.
Okay, were you here at the original when it was granted that the variance?
Yes, sir.
At that time, my understanding of the case was that you had a tenant that was going to move in and you were going to accommodate him and you were going to comply with all the landscaping requirements and do some modification. That fell through and you're looking for another tenant.
Exactly.
And you'd like to
It's not
have-
my case for me.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you a little history, because I think it's worthy for the board to hear. When we first purchased the property, we had Firehouse Subs who was going to be the tenant. We also did the one on
59.
Right. Corporate came back, after we had approval from the city, we had approval from planning, from everybody. Corporate came in and said it's too close to 159. We said they're on a different planet in the marketing strategy. They didn't agree, so we went into a tailspin, basically. So then we're like, oh, what are we going to do? We instantly connected with Which Subs, or Sandwiches, sorry. We've done some in Troy, within Rochester, they're very interested, and we already had them on the hook for a little while, except that during that transaction, Burger King contacted us. If you know Burger King, left Dixie Highway, went down to Telegraph Road. In that transition, they were thinking maybe they'll retain us and then we'll put the Burger King on our property at that point. We were very excited about that because I was like, okay, we like that better.
Why did they close the other one, which is almost kitty corner across the street from you? They closed that one.
They did.
And you think they would be moving across the street to yours?
Well, see,
What's the second?
well, the thing was they wanted to be on the Parkland side, and so on that side, so they would have been to be on our side of the road from what they were
Right.
on that path, right? So we were close to the intersection, which is, but we have that, and then they said they Telegraph, so they thought, well, they tied us up for a bit, and that time Which dropped out, and they said, okay, we're dealing with Burger King. Burger King now says, well, we wanted to wait a couple of years to see if the Telegraph was going to work, and then we would do it with you guys. Well, it's been a couple of years. They have not said anything positive, like yes.
You have nobody in line.
Right, well, we do.
You need time.
We have someone now.
Oh, you do?
Well, we do now. Bird, again, if Burger King talks to us, that's one thing, and I don't want to put anything on the table. But they said, I asked, they said I could say something, I don't want to say the names in public hearing.
Well,
But I
you
thought
want
you
to
would
model
be,
that for Burger King. You take the building down and build a new building?
yeah, we're gonna do that anyways.
Oh,
So
you
that's-
were anyway.
Yes, that was getting raised, and we're gonna put a new building. So and then we also had, I just want to add, we had Starbucks and Carol also. They came in, they wanted it pretty well, my problem with them, were too close to the intersection, and they changed the rules corporately, they wanted to be more in a midstream of the road. We're on the right side, kind of the right, scenario and everything, but we missed that one, so. We've been trying, so I don't want you to think we're sitting on anything. We have someone else interested right now, and they're going through negotiation, it's still a restaurant, they're still looking at the drive-through, we'll still be taking the building down. With that same client, they're looking at what if we don't put a drive-through in and put a building in and modify the one that's there.
Right, you want an extension to.
I do.
Work out the details.
That's exactly
I don't see any problem with that. Anybody in your audience got any comments on this? Or you move, I thought you were going to get up, I'm sorry.
Comfortable.
Is there anybody in your audience wants to make a comment on this case? Hearing now, we'll close the public portion. Board is, being the landlord and building owner, I know this is happening all the time. It's inevitable. Corporate headquarters, Roy, blame them.
Yes.
Anyway, he wants to extend it.
Make a motion to approve case PZB A19-010.
And we won't need any reason other than extending that.
No.
Previously approved.
To extend the previously
Correct.
approved
I
approval
second.
from June 20th, 2017.
Correct. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Motion comes, it'd be nice to have somebody in there paying the rent.
Thank you.
Okay, our last case under the regular schedule is PZBA 19-011. It's requesting a 356 square foot variance from section 3-302-.3A10 to allow the existing 1,800 square foot detached accessory building to remain at the subject property where under the ordinance 1,444 square feet is all that is allowed. Property is located 380 North Cass, a single family residential, and the applicant Daniel Vasquez. And it was my understanding that you took a building down that would reduce, or is this the reduced?
That's when we planned on tearing down, or there's a sketch in there too, want to either take the garage down that exists there, or add a 1,400 square foot addition to attach to the garage that's there to make that living space.
Okay, I didn't understand that, but I understand what you're saying. Okay, I'm going to state the same objection I did a year ago, or whenever it was that came in. You built a garage on the property, you came before the township board, you got a permit to do that, you applied, you did everything you were supposed to do on that. A garage that was 1/3 the size of what you did to it. Now, you come along, you build one 3 times that size, you don't get any permits, you don't get any inspections, and that displeases me. And I didn't want to approve your request based on that, if nothing else. You're over the square footage, no permits, no inspections, no anything. And you come back and you reduce the size with recommendation of removing that garage. Do you have any other argument why you feel we should, or at least why I should change my mind?
It would allow me to keep the stuff I have in old cars.
Correct.
I've got a big motorhome and then more.
You have a lovely lot, your home and your pool,
And
it's really a nice
It's out of
site.
sight, it's not an eyesore. I
It's
think
absolutely not an eyesore.
And built it, I know it's built right, I know.
I would never question it. But I know in your heart when you built it, you knew you had to have a permit. You can say anything you want to.
I agree.
You did before a much smaller structure. Anyway, I still feel that way. I haven't changed, but do you want to say anything else?
When I talked to the attorney for the township, she said that there was no way that they'd let you build a gerbil path to attach the house to the garage, so you'd have a big garage in the back. I don't think the gerbil tunnel was 1,400 some square feet. I think that's a pretty good size addition, would increase the value of the
You
house.
just would like us to approve it.
Right.
Is there anybody in the audience got any comments on this request?
Yes,
Your name and
I'm
address,
Steve,
please.
I live nearby. As I think you alluded to there, I recall this, a very similar case to this came up maybe 8 months or a year ago, and I thought there was a resolution or a plan of action determined at that time. And I'm curious, I look at this, is this a new case, or was there something?
No case that we denied. And he can't come back for the same exact variance that he requested before, but he modified it and requested a lesser variance.
So what is
He's allowed to do that. It's the same building.
Okay. What's being requested then?
He wants to build a bigger building than the current allows, our ordinance allows.
Say 360.
By,
Larger.
300, he wants it to be 356 feet bigger than what's currently allowed under the ordinance.
Okay, I guess what I'm confused in is, I thought there was a resolution from the last time this came up, and we're back here again, so why are we back here again?
Because, I'm gonna try to do it as clear as I possibly can. He has reduced the size of his requested variance. There, well, because he tore down.
Okay, so
you
tore
can have
down-
so much property.
I don't think it's.
No, I don't think it's torn down. No, it hasn't been torn down. But he was gonna tear down the building and then make it the request less.
So that was a resolution, was to tear down the building. but tear-
Well,
No.
to reduce the variance, he wants 356, and maybe the last time he wanted 600. He's reduced the amount of his variance. And by reducing it, you mean he tears down that existing garage, which he has not done. But he doesn't want to tear it down unless we approve that. But there was no solution that we came up with. We just denied it. And my biggest complaint with the applicant was, he knew better. He not only building bigger than what's required or allowed under ordinance, he doesn't apply to any of the rules, no permit, no inspection, no anything. Now, do you think we should grant him permission just to leave it there? I'm just saying, we have rules. All these people coming in have rules that they have to comply with, and they're complying. For whatever reason, he decided, and I can't speak for him, he just felt he didn't need any of that stuff. Permits.
So where we're at right now then is.
It's whether we grant a variance.
Original variance, which was for 600 some odd square feet, is
Well,
by
he wants
reduced
to-
to the number I see here, by the fact that you would tear down the building. and
Correct.
change it. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, you plan on tearing the existing garage down.
Yes.
And he would still need 356 square foot.
Variance with that being
Right.
tore down.
There we are.
We had suggested to tear the garage down, and we can tear it down now.
Yes.
Before.
And I talked to the attorney over there, and she said, wait till I go, she said, wait till I go before the board, see if they approve it before I can.
I don't know what attorney that would be. You said Mr. Garrett.
Yes, I believe that's who it is. I forgot her name.
Margaret Scott.
Yes.
Well, we have a very simple request here. The request, the gentleman is requesting the 356 square foot, 356 square foot variance. It's either approve that variance or deny the variance, and that's where we're at.
We're gonna make the motion.
Okay?
Case number PZBA 19-011. I make a motion that we would deny because the self-generated,
Self-created.
self-created. Exactly.
All right. Is there support for the motion to deny? Is there any other discussion in regards to the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of denying the request for PZBA 19-011, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried to deny the request 6-1. Okay, now, do we just go and ask them gentlemen, come on, do we want to go home?
We popped their head in. They popped their head in.
Oh, they did, maybe they are. What's that?
There you go.
Take it over.
See what I find out.
Yes, I'm sorry.
They did, yeah, they denied it. They said that, they had to tear down that building.
You may never get through that first.
Okay, all right, I'll take it.
Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Vasquez is back.
Another, keep the garages back.
You want to be able to keep, you want to keep the garage?
Yes.
Okay. What you do, you'd apply for a permit at the building department. They're going to deny it and suggest you go to the ZBA to get the roof. The other way is cut off 356 feet and the garage that you propose to take off, and then you would be in compliance. Then you need to get a permit. You'd have to comply with the inspections, footings, whatever is required by the township. Is that correct? Yes, do you think?
Yeah.
You could do that. And then it's in compliance.
Right.
What, Brent? I'm sorry.
Well, the other option is go to circuit court.
Well, that's what, yeah. I say that at the beginning of every meeting. If you're denied, you can go to circuit court, sue the township. But you better have a pretty good case, because I wouldn't want to go before a judge and say, well, I didn't want to get a permit, I didn't want to get an inspection, I wanted to build it bigger than it's supposed to be. They're not going to be.
Right, because I know that I'm not the only garage that is, the only person that had to build a garage had full permit, and I know people that have done it, and they had full permit, and there was not anything ever said to them.
And tell that to the judge.
Okay. All right,
So
so
be sympathetic.
when would the ministers posted?
The minute?
Minutes are available in 10 days. Minutes are up for approval next week.
Okay, so then if I want to come back to you guys with that proposal or the addition, I can come back.
Well, you wouldn't need
You
to
don't
come
have
to
to
the
go
court.
back.
You wouldn't have to deal with this board.
Oh, just all proper permits that you're.
That you're in compliance with the ordinance.
Okay.
And based on that, my understanding is if he does, they'd have to prove the license, the permit, to modify the garage, get inspections and so on, to make it fall within the ordinance. You could do that, and then never come before the court. But if you went in as it is, they're gonna reject your permit and tell it, we approve the variance. That we didn't approve it.
Just attaching the existing garage with the column. The detached pole bar in the back is still have to be reduced in size.
But it would do something if it was attached to the house.
No.
If it became living space, it
No.
would. It becomes living space. It's
No,
not garage.
the proposal was to remove it altogether. Attaching and removing it is the exact same thing as far as the zoning ordinance is concerned. You still have a large outbuilding that's over with Ortonville.
Right, that
We
one-
did not
that
have
one would have
request.
to be
That would
cut
have to
down.
be modified.
Right, understand, but attaching that one would be way over, with the garage that's there now, it's way over square footage. So if I attach that, and make that living space, it wouldn't be as far over the square.
You're eliminating, you're not smiling.
In compliance with, yeah, what's the square footage, 14? 14. How much?
We solved 5 cases while you guys were gone.
Oh, yeah.
And they appreciate it too, because they leave.
I know. I was at a Dearborn, council meeting once, that's what, that's 5.
Oh, we got
Go to West Bloomfield sometime, it's the same thing down there. Did you come to conclusion?
We did, oh, here?
Yes. Good. And you both will agree to that? Jerry out there?
I'm waiting on,
Our attorney has it, yeah.
Well, then, it should be settled. You still need a overhang setback.
Well, yeah, but they just. We'll know when they make their, whatever they do. Okay. We're sharp, we got that sharp. He got us all. There's a little kid outside.
It is.
All the way to the end of the ball. One is the diagonal. I don't know if it's could be garage. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Okay. So we're here, disturbing the other people. Okay.
Yeah, I like it. I was here, I didn't. You were. Not needed. We're going to do it. Mr. Dobry, would you be then making the presentation on behalf of the other attorneys, the owners? Oh, you, okay. I thought it was resolved. It isn't at this point yet?
Well, it's close.
Okay. We want to get it over with, so you can build a house and the neighbors are happy, the water's taken care of. You know, it's. Right.
I did a drawing, so there's a way to talk after I was doing this.
Okay.
Hopefully that they have to treat. And the only issues that I'm aware of, frankly, are 4 and 5. So it's just side. And really, it's only 4. It's like their J's not worried about this.
Right.
So it's really just, it's the east side, whichever is the east.
Yeah, the east side.
Mr. Dobry is going to present what we think is all of your opinions. He's going to read it to us, and we're going to adopt it, thinking that everybody's going to look at it. And we're going to give you an opportunity to say, yes, it's okay. We vote on it, speak it on it. It's good.
It's number 5, I'm sorry, it's 5 to 6. And so it's really, we don't worry about Mr. Feldman's.
Well, 5, 6, and 7 should all be addressed. Address them all.
5, it's 5, it's 5. Number 5.
That's the one.
17 would be the, so you guys can adopt it. And then 5 and
Correct.
6 is the one where they're saying that it's just really 5.
Yeah,
So
that's
5 is
still need one,
6
guys.
is Jimmy Felsman's side.
Oh,
That's the east side. Those, all the stuff.
that's on stick. Yes, sir.
Shall we come back?
All the
from
meeting back
recess?
order.
I'm not going to be the, you'll want to hear from the other attorneys, but what I understand has occurred during the recess is Amy, the applicant, and Land Messer, the owner to the east, have agreed to a concept of a revised drainage plan on Mimi's property that would involve a combination of a swale and a French drain, and that driveway primary drainage will be directed to those drains that eventually take the water to the lake. What they have not agreed to is the amount of side yard overhang variances. And it should be, they agreed they needed no variances earlier, was incorrect. If they want to live with a 1 foot overhang, they would need no variances. It's my understanding Nemes are requesting a 2.25 foot variance. Is that right?
The overhang is
To allow a total overhang of 3.25 feet.
Okay, and I would say that just because there are a lot of concessions were made over here, as you've seen on this afternoon. The quarter was what this group had discussed, and that's what, as much as we'll do, because that's what kind of losing the flavor of the house.
But is that agreeable by both parties?
I don't, I'll let you see that. 3.25.
Well, no, the variance is 2.25, we already had a foot, that makes a total of 3, but it sounds big, we only want 2.25 from you guys.
The variance request only 2.25.
Look at that sketch already.
Because you already have 6 feet.
Right.
You already have a foot.
So in the context of the variances that you have before you, we still don't need number 7. But 5 and 6 are still needed.
Okay, it's just reduced.
It's my understanding the applicant is modifying their requested variances on 5 and 6 from 2.75 feet to 2.25 feet. So they've reduced the variances on those sides by a half a foot on each side. And you now have as soon as I let them talk, you'll have a commitment to an agreement to a ZBA condition on variance relief if they get those side yard variances to the enhanced drainage improvements I just outlined, which would have to be drawn up by their surveyor engineer Alpine and approved by the township attorney.
Township engineer too.
That's what we meant, township engineer.
I meant that.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just
You
one
would
thing.
not want me looking at drainage plans.
Okay, so they want to have an overhang that's 3.25 long,
Yeah.
wide.
Yes.
They
So-
can have 1 foot already,
Right.
no variance.
So
So it's 2.25 foot variance.
So after you have heard from both sides,
Okay.
I can assist you in making your motion if you give me some.
It actually is quite clear, but I appreciate that offer, but I just got to make sure both of you guys are okay with it. Good, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, on behalf of my clients, the adjacent property owners, we agree with the enhanced drainage plan as conditionally approved. We would also request, though, that there be some kind of maintenance agreement along with that plan to be drawn up by the engineer. And then, relative to the variance, we would like you to limit the variance request to 1.5 feet beyond the 6 feet. In other words, instead of it being 3.25 feet, it would be 3/4 of a foot short of that. And then, I don't know, we've really never talked about variance 3 and 4, about the side, the backyard. That may be taken care of by the drainage, I hope. And I understand variance 7 has been withdrawn. But we would like some kind of maintenance component relative to the drainage plan.
So just clarification on number 5, you would like to have, or you'd be willing to grant, if we granted a 1.5 foot variance?
Yeah, 18-inch variance instead of a...
Right, 1.5?
Yes.
Instead of 2.25?
Correct. Because they already got the foot.
Yeah. Let's see if it is. Because there's other, okay, now, this maintenance agreement, are you authorized to create it for your client? I mean, you're done, the house is here, and 3 years later, there's a problem. Your owner would have to maintain it. I mean, I maintain my yard, if there's a problem, I just maintain, I don't know how to do
I
it.
just told him that, I just told my client the same thing, that's not really something that needs to be part of this, because everyone should be taking care of their.
Well, you assume that.
So I don't think that needs to be part of it.
Yeah, you can have a problem if you don't
Right.
maintain it.
Exactly, at a different building over there.
Right.
So we are in agreement with the drainage plan that's enhanced with the condition being that our engineer, which is Alpine, drafts it, and then the township engineer approves it. We are maintaining.
We would like to look at it also.
Well, yeah, of course. But we're maintaining the 2.25 overhang because we've just made so many concessions, and that was what we came down to, and the drainage is only gonna work with that kind of dimension.
And how do we address the maintenance problem? I mean, question, not the problem.
Well, I guess I'll say I disagree with it, and I don't think that it needs to be adopted.
Well, I don't know how we could do it on owner, but I'm not sure.
I'm sorry?
I don't think that should be something.
Yeah, I don't think it's something that can be part of the.
Right, so if we approve 1.5, you're happy, if we appoint 2.25, you're happy. Because everything else is gonna be taken care of as far as the drainage.
Well, yeah, sorry, and I have a lot of respect for Mr. Ryan, I'm interrupting. I'm only saying the drainage plan works with the 2 and 2.5, it won't work with the smaller. That's the issue.
Their biggest complaint concern was not really the roofs, it's not having water under that.
That's without question.
So, 2.25, it's still gonna work just fine, so.
Okay, I think we know. Board, do you have any questions of that? And I don't-
Chair?
I'm sorry.
As long as you don't enter the township into some kind of a maintenance agreement.
So I don't think the township.
I said as long as we don't.
The maintenance schedule, a maintenance agreement could be drawn up, but there's no way that the township can enforce
Thank you.
something like that.
That's it.
Yeah.
Don't be subject to property maintenance.
They're not gonna come out.
That could be a condition of the variance, because you're gonna have an underground system now that's gonna be.
It could be a condition, but we can't put it on the township. to
No, I'm
enforce
not
the
saying about the
condition.
township, no.
And you would be willing to draw that out? That agreement?
I don't think that there needs to be a maintenance agreement
You
as
do?
part of this, and so I guess for clarity purposes, I'm saying I object to it, I don't think it needs to be part of it, and it shouldn't be, it's just gonna complicate this, because then in a year or two, they're gonna come back and try to make an issue out of that part of it, which is not enforceable anyway.
I think we're ready to make the
Yep.
motion.
We are.
Is anybody brave enough to make the motion?
I would move, I had that Gary make the, motion
Yes,
for
so
us.
was that before?
Well, I have a, Chairman, I have
I
a
just need
question.
to know what the intended motion is, but you have a question.
I have a question. It's the overhang, right now it seems like we've gotten to that, we're like 8 inches, right? 2 1/4 to 1 inch and 1.75. Is that what the consensus
You know what?
has come to?
9
inches. We have two.
8 inches is the overhang difference.
He wants it 9 inches more.
I think
They
the
want it 9 inches
2.5 architecturally matches the design of that house, and they compromise greatly. It also works with the drainage system.
I agree.
And I think we need to keep it that
I
way,
agree,
so.
yes, I was just clarifying
Right.
that 8 inches was the thing.
Yeah.
Gary, Mr. Dover, I would move to approve a motion.
Would that be for all of the variances with the modifications of the side yard overhang variances?
Correct.
Yes.
2.25 and the elimination of the 7.
Yes.
Swale over the,
New drainage.
If that is what you would be intending to move, I'd recommend to use the following language. Based on the evidence presented for this hearing and the February 19, 2019 hearing, and the statements by the applicant and land master representatives at this meeting, to amend the February 19, 2019 decision in this case that approved the 7 variances requested, to include the following findings on the practical difficulty variance review standards in section 6.100.5 of the zoning ordinance, that the applicant has demonstrated my satisfaction, and based on those findings to affirm the February 19, 2019 decision, with the exception that variances 5 and 6 be amended to be 2.25 feet variances rather than 2.75 feet variances. Requiring strict compliance with the setback restrictions from the variances that were requested will be unnecessarily burdensome, based on the variance exhibits submitted by the applicant demonstrating that the variances will allow construction consistent with other homes in the area, and the condition that will be attached to this motion regarding drainage. The variances will do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners, based on that this will allow the applicant to build the same size home as proposed, and has not been shown that it will be unjust to other property owners considering the condition to be attached to this variance. Lesser variances and requests will not give substantial relief to the applicant and will be consistent with justice to other property owners. These variances are less than requested. The applicant has eliminated the impervious surface variance voluntarily and will provide substantial relief to the applicant and consistent with other property owners, including the owner to the east. The need for the variances is due to the unique circumstances peculiar to the property. It's not generally applicable in the area. This property is on the dead-end street. The north shoreline of the lake cuts into the property. This problem and resulting need for the variance has not been self-created by the applicant. It's based on the variances being requested for an existing parcel, dimensions of which were not established by the applicant. And finally, that granting these variances will be consistent with the spirit of the zoning ordinance, public safety and welfare, and substantial justice. Conditions on this variance are as follows: that the applicant's engineer shall draw up a new drainage plan that incorporates a swale and French drains on the east property line. That plan will include details following as recommended by the Township Engineer's memo. Details of the trench drains are provided. The plan is to indicate how discharges from the sump pump are going to be addressed. And the drains are to run to the lake with a larger diameter pipe size than shown on the current plan, being provided if necessary to handle the flow. The revised drainage plan should note any cleanouts whenever horizontal bends are incorporated. And the side yard swales will carry the water to the lake. Finally, that the revised drainage plan contain any notes regarding required maintenance recommended by the engineer.
That you support? You made a motion or did you?
No, I made, you already made the motion, I agree to that, I didn't support it.
Okay, and then the support?
I'll support.
Okay, is there any other questions for the applicants? Hearing none, all in favor of amending the motion as presented by Mr. Joe, one side? Doesn't.
We have a larger discussion.
We have a motion.
If you don't have any question, all in favor of the motion,
Excuse me.
by saying aye.
Don't go. I forgot one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
On the drainage plan, that it provide for drainage from the driveway to be routed to the lake in the drainage system.
I agree with that, that was Jesus.
Okay.
Yep.
That's been supported. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
I hope everybody's happy.
Yeah, good luck to everybody.